Hey, hello. Not sure if this is set up properly, but it's about as good as it's going to get. I'm just doing the same thing as I was doing last time. Just figured, get online, do a bit of rock sculpting here. My keyboard is right next to my mic, so hopefully that's not being picked up. Just double check my settings. All seems good. So I'm just doing the same as last time. I think what I'm going to do right this second is bring this back into sculpt mode and remesh it at a slightly higher resolution. See what that looks like. So I'm remeshing it at a slightly higher resolution so that I can then multi-resolution it a little bit easier. I can subdivide this once and hopefully it won't crash anything. Let me get my reference back up as well. So this is the kind of thing that I'm going for, because it'd be just a bit of fun, really. So I'm still working on that. This area over here is actually a little bit more detailed, a little bit more interesting than, like, as in the surface over there is more detailed. So a lot of the surface information here I'll take, but the actual shape, the larger shapes are on that bit there. So that's what's on my second screen. And so I'm just going to try out this resolution. I think I'll smooth it off a little bit. I've not tried out the Wacom actually yet, so let's check. Oh dear. Right, this till it works. I'm pretty sure this is a similar setup to what I had before. Oh, okay, yeah, now it's picking it up. That looks of it. Yep. Just try the. Make sure that we're on. Yeah, it should be fine. Double check. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so really pretty much the exact same thing as last time. And if you've got questions, then I can answer them. It's on my second screen. I can see the see what's going on. But really, I'm just giving this a little go. I think I'll leave it a mesh topology smooth. Oops, that's wrong. Mesh effects. Mesh filters. So I'm tackling the large bit right now, so that's the bit that's highlighted. We didn't like that. There we go. Actually, isolated, it didn't like that either, so I will just get a non-isolated. And I will be relaxing this. I think I'll give it a surface smooth. And enhance details. I'm sculpting over it anyway. And yep, so just carrying on with this sort of trim smooth border style brush. I think that's what I set up. This trim smooth border from ZBrush. If you Google trim smooth border in Blender, then you'll get a tutorial Well, see, I've got a keyboard with like a Stream Deck situation, but clearly I'm not very used to it. But there you go. Just a couple of custom G keys, but clearly I'm not very good at using them. It'd be nice to have like a proper Stream Deck, but nice to have because then you can actually see what it's because it's a screen rather than just a couple of G keys. It's a lot easier to remember, and also they actually restrict a lot of functionality for just custom keys, even though Corsair is the company that makes Stream Decks, or they own the company, they own the Elgato, so it's annoying that they restrict. Kind of creating the same shape all over this by mistake, so I don't want to create exactly the same shape everywhere. Like with that sort of, I like that layered system, which is similar to the reference, but I think I'm doing the same shape a little bit too much, so I should really find a way of breaking that up a little bit. I'm in the complete wrong view. I'll take it back into, I've got it on rendered view there, and that was fine because I set up a custom shader on my last stream, but actually being on the Met caps is probably a little bit better. It's way too spotty when I make it quite large, so this is like this is because I've given them all sort of that general pass. What I'm doing right now is really going to be that hopefully a detail sort of situation. Rather than what it was. It's just like I'm trying to follow the shape that I've already laid out without getting too detailed, like without changing the shape too much and adding extra detail, because the reference is actually quite basic shapes. It's just that the basic shapes are just pretty much because it is stylized. But overall, it's just a bit of fun. Let's see what's going on. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I still need to take this another resolution up later, because it's feeling pretty good, but it feels like it might just have a little bit not enough resolution. I really want to straighten some of these edges as well. Maybe some some sharpening on the edges would be good. It's quite bad when I zoom too far out. That is getting way too stepped. Hello. Have you got any questions? Any about just general 3D stuff, or are you just saying hi, stopping by? I'm digging way too away at that. And sharpen that. It's too much of a straight edge. It needs beveling a little bit. I shouldn't really follow the back of this too closely because I've not done a base sculpt on the back. Just trying to add a small bit of detail all over, really. Yeah, I'll do the low poly, although I can't imagine it would be anything more than, I can't imagine it was going to be full retopology. I could, if it's because it's natural. I don't think that a full retopology would be needed. I would just literally throw it through a decimate. That does seem to be. It's not acceptable. Well, I'd say it's not acceptable, but it's fast. So just throwing it through the decimate rather than actual retopology, it's hard to argue with because it's just because it is so fast that if you need to make changes afterwards, decimating it again isn't exactly an issue. And the way that I'm going to make the texturing on this is similar to an old video that I made. I don't think I'll get to that today because there's loads of sculpting right here. But the way that I'm doing the texturing on this is also hopefully going to be made in videos and so on, just like my old one, which is it's procedural in Substance Designer, so pretty much all you would need to do is bake the maps, and then Substance Painter should just spit out a texture and a material, like stylized material, hopefully. That can be sort of smoothed off. Oh dear. The back of this isn't going very well, but I'm not really that bothered about the back. I'm just doing this for a bit of I guess it's less important than the top and front, so it's a little bit of practice, isn't it? So yeah, I don't think that I'm going to get to any retopology or whatever. I mean, if you want to see the process, I can do it on one of the pieces. If you want to see exactly what I would do, I can run through that real quick. But it's not exactly the main focus because again, it is just a common way of doing things. Straighten some of these off. The reference does have cut off edges like this, so I don't mind completely cutting off an edge like that. I'll try and keep some of them flat. Keep this one more flat. overall, I think once this is baked, the amount of detail you need to go into on a sculpted rock, a lot of it can be made a lot nicer after the fact. Although I really do want to practice my sculpting and create a sculpt that you could take a picture of and put on your portfolio with the low poly uh, textured one as well. Hopefully this will turn out like that, but right now a lot of these edges are feeling quite blobby still, obviously, because it's early on. I think it's just because this part that I'm on is so big that it's gonna make Blender lag a little bit if I keep subdividing, I imagine. But I might have to give it one more subdivision level and then get in there on the small details. But again, I'm already adding more stuff like this isn't actually in the reference, so it's whether that could just be pretty much flat. Without going too crazy. I'm going to turn off one of these, see what happens. I guess sculpting isn't too exciting, but this is just how it's done, isn't it? I mean, I'm not doing this for a quick tutorial. This is pretty much just me doing whatever I can to try and make this work. Because tutorial wise, it's pretty much just do the same thing over and over again for a little while. Which is, with I'm clearly not putting like my full attention into what I'm doing just yet. I'm still whatever I'm changing here is still pretty much just waiting for messing around until little shapes are appearing. Like I didn't plan on doing this sort of step thing right here, which again looks a little bit too samey. But it was just easy. That's what the brush naturally does, and it is just kind of rocky, I suppose. So that's fine. And it's kind of what it's what the reference does. I'm just going to maybe see if I can level it out a little bit as well. Change the shape. And that'll give it a little bit of a different, it's only slightly different, but at least it's not the same arching. I'll try and I'll definitely be trying to do a little bit more of this sort of thing, and just as I'm working, just give it a little. I mean, I'm not gonna be on too. Oh, it's pretty late. Well, it's not that late, but it's I'll give this like half an hour, and that'll be what I generally do. Put an hour in or whatever, and then move on to the next, play some games or whatever, and come back tomorrow. If I'm into the project. But obviously, a few games have come out recently, so I've been playing some of them. So this has pretty much been exactly the same since last week or whatever, whenever I uploaded the last stream. I can do a quick retopology thing now while you're here. I'll swap over once in a moment. Again, it's lazy. It's lazy retopology. Can't help but add sort of, when you've got a trim smooth border brush, you can't help but add some of those shapes going down it, like if you just add a slight angle, it makes it look a little bit more rocky. But the reference again that I'm looking at just doesn't have detail on the surface, so I might end up just getting like a flattened brush or something like that and just get rid of some of those smaller details in the end. Because really I think it's just the sharp edges. I'm going to try this brush again. It's not really working for me. Let's try it large. It pinches that surface too much. Try and do it lightly. Let's try a general pinch brush. So that versus the general pinch, I think the pinch does it a lot nicer. But worked that out on my last stream. I still try it. I still try it again because that brush seems really useful. But then I end up just going back to the pinch and going around all the edges. It makes them look a lot nicer. Make them look a little bit nicer, and then I'm going to give it another mesh smooth on the mesh. That's enhanced details. I'll hit that slightly. I'll change to my mouse actually. Just check that this is working. So like it's like a pinch in itself. Even if I over pinch it, I'm still going to go to surface smooth and just like that. Surface smooth, in fact, it's that the one I want. Surface smooth, and is it just relax? Maybe I don't want to surface smooth as much. I want, yeah, I think it's relax that I was thinking of. So relax is just gonna, it just spreads the vertices out rather than, again, this is what I talked about in my last stream as well, but it just spreads the vertices out, which is what I want. And I'm not sure, it's not looking like an amazing amount of work has been put into it. But I'm not sure at what point I want to move on and do a little different one. For this to do its thing, okay. So I've got this little one down here, which as soon as it's overlapping with the thing loses its detail. So I'm not sure. I think in the end I would end up joining all this together and then all that sort of stuff. But as far as retopology goes, it would literally be a case of applying the base on this. Apply the base, see what happens. I think that's what I want to do. For custom brushes on the rock, it is a custom brush, or it is. If I go to my settings here, they are custom. I've made them different, but I'm mostly just turning these settings on and off, and I'm using a square alpha. But then, if it were a realistic rock, then I would probably want to follow it up with some alphas and stuff to push it over the edge. But for this, it's pretty much the sharp shapes, and because it's not a realistic rock, I think I can get away with just, I don't know, not using some of the custom brushes. I'm not sure what other kinds of custom brush I would use, but that's pretty much. But yeah, they are slightly custom. They're just not like I'm not using like a rock set of brushes, you know, what I download somewhere. The point of me doing it was to sort of learn a lot of things anyway. So yeah, for retopology, I think if I just duplicate this without it going crazy. Okay, so it's duplicated, and I'll put it in there for now. Turn that one off, so I don't need to isolate anymore. And yeah, I would just end up deleting this because I just applied the base. I know I did a little bit more work there, but I'm not bothered right now. And then decimate. And I would do this in steps. So rather than bringing this down to like, I'll do it at 0.5 at a time. Retains the shape a little bit better, hopefully. It's kind of like seeing how far can I go with it. Maybe at this point I'll keep up on this one. And really, I'd have no problem going like super low. Although I suppose because it is stylized, it'd be a lot cleaner to. It probably would be a retopology case, but this is what I'd usually do. And you can get away with that on a stylized rock. It's whether I want to go that low. Oops, don't know what I just did. Oh. And then after I've gotten that low enough, clearly some cleanup. Yeah, I suppose it's not turned out amazing. You can always give it a quadri mesh. Yeah, I mean, the more I look at this, because of the amount of details going into it, perhaps a proper retopology might be in order. But also, no one, like all these collections of polys are only there because it was a detailed area. So in an area where there's less detail spread out. So it is, although it looks messy, it is logically applying detail where needed. You just get some bugs here and there that you need to manually fix. And even this can have a go to sculpt mode. You can start bringing this in with some topology smoothing. You know, not as crazy as I'm doing it right now, but it's just sliding those vertices along the surface, and that will really help out those smoothing issues. And as you can see, like if you do it too much, it's going to spread out the corner, but if you use it sparingly on across surfaces, it can help you out quite a lot, which again I'm only doing as an example because I'm going to delete this. And then when I go to the topology now, things might start looking a little bit better and easier to work with, and not as like crazy as they were before. But yeah, it's not like 100% ideal, but it's a very quick way to get something done that's natural and organic. And the rock that I'm going with is something along these lines. So again, the detail that I've sculpted in there is probably too detailed in comparison to this because there's a lot of straight edges. So it's whether so I've gone for a little bit more detail than maybe I should have, but that's also might turn out all right. So all of this sort of stuff along the top isn't there on the reference. So it's whether I want to wait for this to do its thing. Why not? It's just frozen. So it's freezing quite. Oh no, it's because of my swap. If you swap between, it's not frozen, but the wheels broken there. So that's there we go. There we go. Sometimes if I swap from mouse, it'll just freeze like that. So yeah, that's the kind of rock that I was going for, but it's whether the amount of detail that I'm putting onto this is probably too much. Whether I want to try and smooth some of this out, and like when I've got detail like this along the side, it's whether I want to keep it because I sometimes I like how some of the shapes come in, but I guess it's about how it's just about how sharp some of the detail is as well. I'll check that I'm on a surface smooth as well. I probably aren't. Yeah. Change this to surface smooth, although at a certain amount of detail, it doesn't like it. Try and change this to just that mode where it makes straight. Normal mode, because that's basically a trim smooth. I thought both of them being on. Yeah, it does. Both of them being on makes it like a completely flat surface. So if I really wanted to turn some of these into totally sharp edges, then having the tool on that sort of stuff. And I think increasing the normal radius is what should make, yeah. So it should allow me to just like completely cut off an edge if I really wanted. Very, very slow, but that's pretty much what I'm doing. Now it's working, I think it's working differently to how it was before. I don't know if that's because I've increased the normal radius. Maybe my normal radius was causing it to act more like a different brush. Completely cut that off. Trying to make some of these. No, I don't mind that one. That's taken too far. It's not really sorting out that shape. So I think turning off plane at this point will allow me to make it definitely more of a, basically just what I've named it. I don't see the point in changing completely different brushes, but this is more, it just being on normal should be more like a trim smooth border. And then on both normal and plane should make it more like what I think was trim adaptive. I can't quite remember from ZBrush. This brush really isn't acting how like I want it to, I think, but I'll let that plane alone, rough up that edge. Kind of wondering what the best way that maybe to the best way that I could possibly break this into more than one rock. Although on the reference here it is just one big slab at the top, but it's not slanted like mine, you know, so that's just a bit of a difference, not like it's a major difference. This does have like a more of an outwards bit of the, and also just like whether there's a brush that I want to use that could, because I really haven't used anything other than the flatten brush at the moment. You know, like the trim brush. I've not used anything really other than the trim brush. So I'm kind of thinking for a situation like this, whether I want to try and bring in one of these and just try and bring that inwards. I'll end up closing this gap a little bit, but hopefully this will kind of get it started. And obviously one of the advantages actually that I haven't been using very much, I can just going to sort out this topology. Looks like I'm going to have to just totally smooth this out. And what I haven't particularly taken advantage of is the multi-layer system. So I'm going to apply the base again. Oh, yep. It's doing it. It's done it, I think. And then I will see, my computer doesn't like when I swap from. Oh, I just can't press anything after I. And yeah, so on this layer, I should hopefully be able to turn that more into what I imagined it was, which was probably going inwards around here. The topology really doesn't like that at all. Good enough. Let's have a little look at what it's done. Oops. A bit crazy. If anyone does know a better way of doing what I'm doing, because again, I'm just sort of just learning and messing around, really. If anyone knows a better way of doing stuff, then you're welcome to say it. So I'm hoping that now using what I've pretty much just been using the whole time, and actually I've noticed that the hardness here is, or not hardness, but quite a big fall off. none of what I just did has fixed what I was looking at. It's that inner ring I was looking at. That's filling in. I'm just focused on filling in that, try and emphasize that gap without filling it completely in. So I'm really just adding to it, and actually I'm still sculpting on. Oops, have I lost my detail? No, let's stop. It just wasn't very detailed is the problem. I don't know what tool I was using, the wrong tool. Almost ready to call it on the stream anyway, but that's kind of what I was trying. I think it's come along a little bit from where it was. And really, it's just a whole lot of this, so when I come back to this, if I stream again, I could be streaming the exact same thing, or I could come back and have sculpted quite a lot of this, find out. I really don't, I don't know how to fill in that gap that I got here. Obviously, I mean, I just made the gap, but it's obviously not looking very good at the moment. It's either it's probably just me not knowing the tools very well, but that's pretty much where I'm at. Let's see what it looks like in a rendered view, and then I will be calling it on the stream. I'd say I've probably improved it. I can't remember what it looked like. But that's also a good reason to have the stream as well. So in the rendered view, takes a moment. It should be pretty quick. So that's what it looks like in Eevee, but it's not looking quite right. It looks like the ambient occlusion's broken in Eevee, or something's gone wrong. It looks too reflective. Got specules off. Not sure where some of that's coming from. And the roughness is full, so there shouldn't be any of this sort of like that. Should look like more of a cohesive part of the same mesh. I guess my render settings are wrong. If anyone wants to see render settings, I think, because it says it's going to use my GPU, and then it looks like on my actual render settings, it wasn't using the GPU. Change it to supported instead. So it shouldn't be using the CPU. Oh well, might take a little bit. I guess that's just what I'll be doing anyway. But that's what it's looking like in Eevee. Oh hi. You just caught me as I'm leaving. I'm leaving now. Not because you showed it, not because you showed up. That's why it looks weird. That's because I had the scene lighting on. So I had the scene world on. That's why I was looking off. Ideally, more of it would be like this one. I like how this one is. I think what I did do with this one before sculpting it, obviously, was maybe join a few shapes together and then sculpt on it. And that's kind of the end result that I kind of want. So a lot of this will be joined together afterwards. But right now, it doesn't make sense to have that much detail all over the place. So I can sculpt some stuff to a higher level of detail when it's in parts. And actually, now that I've changed the rendering type, that kind of gap doesn't look that bad, but also it's still, I don't know how I would sculpt that without it going a little bit too crazy, a little bit too difficult. Like it looks blobby, and you know, a lot of I found when I was doing this bit, it kind of this kind of the look that I need to get this same look that's down here all over here and there. So actually, let's check this. So the render. So what I might try next time is pretty much getting something like a bevel across this thing, not bevel, but a boolean. Probably just boolean across this thing and then split it into more pieces, and it's going to create a defined line somewhere that maybe I can close later on, or if I did split it up and then sculpt something like that, like if I just split off this part but I only sculpted the edges around where I want the gap, then maybe that's a better way of working. But that's it for the stream, and thanks for stopping by, everyone. It looks like 6 people have liked it, and there's about 7 viewers. That's been pretty cool. I'll try and do more probably throughout the week if I'm not doing anything. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one.